Hi, Cynthia Allen here. I am so excited that we are finally kicking off the summit. We've been working very hard to bring this year's Feldenkrais Awareness Summit to you, and this is our first official session. We've had a few bumps in the road, but hopefully we'll just keep learning together and we will get it all ironed out as we go along. So thank you so much for tuning in. Let me just give you a little idea of what we have going on with this. So you're going to notice that there's an ability to have a chat, and you want to go ahead and look around on your device or your screen and find that chat opportunity. While we are not going to be taking questions directly from chat during this talk, we are going to use your questions and discussions during the talk to inform the panel discussion that'll be tomorrow around the track. This particular track, as you probably noticed, is nervous system health, and there'll be 3 talks in every track. So that gives you just a little bit of an idea that you can go ahead and find chat, maybe introduce yourself, say where you're from. Arlene Klein, our behind the scenes person and support, will be over there. She's probably already introduced herself. And if you have problems or technical issues, she'll try to pop in and talk with you about those as well. Okay, so I'm really excited now to go ahead and introduce you to our very first speaker. It's just such a pleasure because she is one of those folks that studied with Dr. Moshe Feldenkrais originally when he was very first training his first maybe his second round. I think he had a first round that was really one person as a long-term apprenticeship. So she'll tell us a little bit more about that. This is Dr. Chava Sheldhav. She's a senior teacher in the Feldenkrais method, born in Israel, lives in Tel Aviv. And she has been acting as a trainer and educational director of Feldenkrais method programs for 30 years. So she has quite a long history, particularly in Israel, Germany, and all over Europe in terms of programs. But she's been in the U.S. quite a lot too in terms of professional training. She did her PhD at Heidelberg University in Germany. This led her to a thesis called Movement as a Model of Learning. She did her master's at Boston University and did her thesis on working with brain damaged children using the Feldenkrais method. And she has just really been devoted to all kinds of things Feldenkrais, but particularly babies and special needs babies. And in 2002, she developed the child space work of the Sheldhav method, which is a really unique way of taking Moshe Feldenkrais' theories and applying them to babies and caregivers. So she'll be telling us a little bit more about that in a moment as well. And Chava, really
Yes.
such a pleasure to have you.
Fine, thank you. I would like to start to tell you how did I meet Moshe Feldenkrais. I was 20 years old, very young, and moved from Haifa to Tel Aviv and started to take ATM lesson in Alexander Yanai Street. He gave, at that time, ATM lesson for the public every day for 45 minutes. And I just took the regular lesson in this place. And immediately after the 3rd lesson, I understood that it is something very unique. I did before the Elsa Gindler work, and I studied with I studied in a course of professional trainer for physical therapy on the Elsa Gindler, the German woman who developed the body and mind therapy. But when I met Moshe or his lesson, I understood that something very important happened there that I didn't understand much. So I decided I'm going to the lesson, and after each lesson, I wrote the lesson on my book, because at that time was not video. And I'm going to show you my original book here. Do you see?
It's so exciting. You might have to be a Feldenkrais geek to get excited about this, but for me, it's exciting.
Yes, it is. Every lesson I came home and I wrote each part because I understood that it's divided like a story. Each lesson had a beginning, a middle, and the end, like a story. And I understood I have to understand and to write each part of the lesson. So that's what I have still now, not that I'm using right now. Now we have the original one and I have the original voice of him. So that influenced a lot my work. I gave lessons at the same time to the public, ATM, and I had a big clinic with FI lessons. Moshe chose from that ATM group in Alexandria and I certain people to continue to study with him and to become an assistant. So I was chosen. I was very happy. I was the youngest one. And we studied every day, but we didn't study the movement. We studied only the functional integration lesson. Every day for 1 or 2 hours in Nachmani Street. And we saw him working with clients with all kinds of problems. He didn't explain much, but after the second year, we had to give him a lesson. So immediately something that we saw, each of us had to give him personally a lesson. So that was a very difficult experience, but we did it and we were certain.
So can I just say, for people who may not know very much about the Feldenkrais method, the functional integration piece is where the practitioner or the teacher works with one client. Often they're lying on a table. And so it's very one-to-one work, as opposed to the work that's most known by probably people who are just tuning in and haven't really had much experience, which would be the classes, which is called Awareness Through Movement.
Yes. So one of the things that we all, the assistant and many other people, didn't find really the secret. When did he prepare his ATM lessons? Because always he came, he didn't have any paper, he didn't have any something written that he gave the lesson, and the lesson was 45 minutes with many, many, many parts of the lesson. So one of the things that maybe I am right was when I saw him working with a client, and she had neck problems, and he worked around her neck, around her eyes, around her speech, around her tongue. And on the way from Nachmani Street, he took me with his car, because at that time I didn't have a car, and we drove from Nachmani Street to Alexandria and I. And I said it was a wonderful lesson. Really, I learned so much. And he said, you will see the way I am developing it to ATM. So I understood that there is something that influences the functional integration lesson, or the lesson that he treated the woman, that influenced his idea how to develop an ATM lesson. And I think one of the lessons that I saw was that you lie on your back and you stabilize your head and you move with the many other parts of your body in relation to the head. So people who know that lesson will maybe understand that it was after the treatment. After working with him many, many years, I was chosen to continue and to work with him in Amherst, Massachusetts. But before, I want maybe to tell you that how did I develop the child space method? Because I was influenced by of course, by the Feldenkrais system and by the theory behind. And many of my patients had some problems that I could not really take care as much as I would like. And I started to look what is behind something that I don't know. And I asked about the childhood, and I asked about anything that was at school, because most of the things that happened actually happened during childhood. So I felt that he couldn't sense himself. He didn't know where are his shoulders blade, and some of the things were very funny. I asked him, did you go out during break to play with your friends? He said, no. I said, why? Because I didn't like. I said, do you play ball? He said, no. And I understood that if someone is not going out, he has a social problem, not only physical. He was a professor in the university, but still some of the problem really were missing. And I decided I'm going to do with him things that he missed when he was at school. For instance, playing a ball. And we did it at home, and we did it in my clinic, throwing the ball to the wall, and he enjoyed very much. I want to show you something that belong to those components that has importance in any function. Look, she's throwing me something, okay? She's throwing me her, can you see the keys? But what's happened that I wanted to catch it. Look once again. I missed it. What did I miss is the timing. It means I have muscles, I have bones, I have everything, but the timing was not correct. In case the timing is not correct, you didn't catch the keys. Something else that it is important. She threw me, but my orientation was towards completely something else. So I understood that I need to go and look and search when all those factors developed. It means orientation, timing, sensing something more than in ATM. And let me tell you, maybe show you one of the films that I did. What is child space?
What is child space? The Chava Sheldhav method. The method teaches knowledgeable and sensitive observation of developmental progress that allows you to identify even slight developmental delays in the earliest stages of newborn development. But won't the infant develop by herself? Unfortunately, we find these days many children in daycare centers, kindergartens, and schools with motor, social, and emotional problems. Difficulties that might appear minimal may not be minimal at all, and it is impossible to know in advance how this will interfere in the future. In 40 years of working with adults, children, and infants, Dr. Sheldhav has learned that the origins of motor, emotional, and social problems can be traced to early childhood. Leading researchers in early child development have reached similar conclusions. Child space developmental support provides our children with a wider repertoire of movement and pleasure in movement. Meaningful interaction between infants, parents, and their environment constructs a positive self-image and expands self-awareness.
So that was part of the film. I will show you a little bit more about it. But the importance really is to understand that early childhood motor skills have an impact on our abilities as adults. So I did a research in a school in Germany for 1 year. Every day I gave ATM, and it was a school for learning disabilities, classes with children age 6 to 10. Because learning disabilities sometimes have to take twice the same class. That's the reason some of them were older. And I work every day and gave ATM to the group. The teacher wrote all the movements that I did so that she can continue to study with them. And I did also research group I didn't give any ATM, just a test that I did with my research class. I did also with the other group. The kids loved those lessons, and the results, of course, I have also an article that people, if you would like, can have the whole research, what did I do at each day, but the results were an improvement in motoric skills, in balance, orientation, coordination, communication, self-esteem, and social skills. So I decided I'm going to really go and search when all those paragraph or components are developed. And during my PhD, I made the research, and I found that it's happened in the first 2 years of life. It means the first 2 years of life are the one who really influence all our abilities later on. So instead of working with grown-up people and to back pain and all those things, I started to work with babies because I thought babies really need to be supported, and of course parents. So I kept learning more and more about it, and I'm going to show you a PowerPoint of really on what are the Sheldhav method principles. Because it's related also to Feldenkrais. Every Feldenkrais person can find some of those principles that is important to know. So the 4 systems involved in every brain function, which we know: movement, sensation, thought, and feelings. And a change, if something doesn't work well in the sensation or something not working in the feeling, it's bring about a change in the other 3. So every of the brain function influence the other. And every phase is composed of interaction system, the motor, the cognitive, the emotional, the social symptom, and their influence each other. Let me give you an example. If a child wants to climb the stairs, how that complexity of motor things, how many components are involved. First, all the body parts need to work together. The hands, the knees, the coordination of the hands and the knees, shifting the weight from knee to hand, shifting the weight from the leg to the hands. How high to lift the leg so that they will feel and sense the height, and not only the height, also the depth. And of course, the fear. The child has a fear to climb. So the fear is a part of many other physical components that we cannot take. We need to know that they have afraid, so we need to support them. And the curiosity, what is higher from the place where I am. So you understand that one function involved so many components that we need to take care about. Now the touch. The touch in Sheldhav space method is one of the most important. Each lesson you need to start to touch. It creates the body mapping. The body mapping is important to start a new function. And I developed some techniques to touch in order to stimulate the proprioceptive system. And the proprioceptive system is the one that regulates the muscle tones. We use the proprioceptive touch in order to adjust the muscle tone and to reorganize joint movement in not only the muscles, also the awareness of the body perception. And I'm going to show you a film, how do I touch and how the proprioceptive touch is important. And maybe all of you who are watching me will be able to do it with me together. So what do I do? I'm taking my hand and bringing the hand down, down, down. So this is a tapping. You can hear, I emphasize the hands down, not up like many are doing. So the weight is going down. So I can feel the skin, the muscles, the bone, and I have the feelings that I know through the tapping, the touch of the muscles, and I have better information of the situation. So this is one. Then I'm taking the fingers and rub each finger and even say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that they will feel the hands for more fine motoric. And then squeeze. Squeezing is the thing that goes more directly to the brain. And the child who cannot roll or the child who cannot really crawl needs some time to feel better his body parts through this mapping. And I will show you a short film about what is mapping.
Maya was born at 36 weeks and 3 days. She was born a bit early, and she was the small twin. Filled with love and joy, we brought Maya home after a month in the preemie ward. We walked in with 2 baby carriers, set them down, and both girls burst into tears.
To give her a sense of her legs, we tap on them lightly, touching her ribs, her pelvis, talking to her system, communicating with her brain. Maya, these are your knees. These are your calves. This touch gives her a proprioceptive sense of where her body parts are. She is moving her hands, she is listening. Holding her foot, let her feel where her toes are. Bend and straighten the foot at the ankle.
What does normal development mean? Milestones such as lifting the head, sitting and walking occur on a timeline that is different for each infant. However, there are also differences that are critical. Without stimuli and support, the infant may miss the window of opportunity, and this may cause a developmental delay.
So what I would like to emphasize, how important it is to improve the broadening of the movement repertoire. Is not enough if you can do it in one way. It's important that repertoire, the options to really find the right movement in the right time and to have the opportunity to adapt to a new situation. So one of the things that if I work with babies and they know only, let's say, to crawl in one way, I will show them at least 2 or 3 different other ways so that they can adapt to a new situation. The other one, maybe what is pace and space, because each person and each baby need to do it in his own pace and in his own space. Everyone has his own timing when he does, and there is no way to tell all the people need to do to be able to do something at the right time, not to ride and not to jump and not. So let's be able to see the individual of the person that we are working with. And the other one is positive observation. Many of the parents comes and say, my baby cannot do that and he cannot do that. And if I teach them to see what is working, not only what is not working, so it strengthens the sense of capability and success. Rewarding is an important part of developing a better self-image. The moment I reward a person or a baby that he did well, his part in the brain is giving out hormones that invite the feedback of the baby to say yes. Play. In each lesson, I need to develop a kind of a play that the baby will be able to bring together the movement with the pleasure of playing. It's a basis of learning and development if a baby knows to play. Now, the parental involvement. Of course, every parent needs to be able to watch the baby and his individual one, not the one that he dreamed about, and really to one that he is facing with. And the process of learning, each learning process requires repetition. It's not enough to do it only once. And of course, the trial and error. This repetition sequence the connection in the brain that pertain to those functions. I'm going to show you something else.
She's already bringing herself up. Look how nicely her feet stabilize.
How long should I let her stand like that?
Don't hold her, let her fall. So she falls. She needs to learn to fall more than she needs to learn to stand. Because falling leads her to get up again. She learns coordination, balance, independence. You can put your hand there. She learns to lean on one hand. This also teaches balance. Play on the floor. Put a mattress down. So she can fall. Excellent. She learns to get up, and all this practice strengthens muscles, joints, and improves balance. Let her grab you. how well she gets along by herself. Excellent.
A wonderful thing that motherhood granted me is that I personally developed, and I am as proud of myself and enjoy myself not less than I am proud of and enjoy my baby.
So you could see how important it is to teach the mother not to overprotecting the baby. It's many mothers would like to help the baby, and they think that they are helping, but actually they don't give them the trial and error to look for themselves and to make mistakes. Babies need to make mistakes, and then we need to accept it. Fine. So now many kindergarten, many teachers in preschool told me about the difficulties many of the babies have at that time. And I'm going to present you a few of the messages that those teachers told me, which is important before we are starting to work with baby, because we can help them at earlier stage. So you see a variety of development delays in preschool. What is it? The balance. Many of the babies who suffer from balance are clumsy, and you can see it that they are clumsy. And if they are clumsy, they cannot jump, they cannot run, or they cannot climb the stairs, and the stiffness in the joints. And the timings that I show you, they are missing the timing, when to put the leg, when to really catch the toy, and coordination, which make a disorder between the hand, the legs, the toy. Lack of orientation. I can tell you a story that one of the mother told me, that she has 4 kids. And the youngest one, which is only 5 years, and the older one, which is 12. But when she would like that someone will bring her from the kitchen a glass of water, she will ask the 5-year-old, because he can orient himself in the room quicker than the older one. Orientation is not just to be able to orient in the room. Orientation is also the orientation between 2 hands, between hand, between shoulder and leg. That's what we are doing in ATM. We teach orientation, but there are children and babies who are missing the leg orientation, which sits on each bone and sits on each muscle. Now, fine and gross motor skills, you know, holding a pencil, holding a puzzle, bring puzzles together. It's needed fine motoric and a gross motoric for bigger puzzles. Now, some of the babies and some of the children, of the kids, has attention difficulties and regulation, and that's what we are calling ADHD. Unfortunately, too many are suffering from ADHD, and if we start earlier, we can catch the problem and help. Now, social skills. Social skills is to be able to play in a group. And if all of those components are working, the self-esteem is bigger and helps them to grow up and to be able to be more socially in class and in the group. The problems can be detected at the earliest stages of development. An effective intervention should be addressed in the baby's first year of life. That's my experience. So where can you see early signs that are difficulties? We mentioned that we can start earlier, in the earliest stage of baby development. Early signs. A baby who doesn't show an ability to turn over really at around 7 months, some of the components in turning over are the basic of the next development stage, which is crawling. So in case a baby didn't or isn't able to roll, he will have also problems in crawling. So it's better to emphasize and to work on the earliest stage, because he needs to turn from belly to the side and to the back, and from the back. It is orientation, is coordination, is using the hands, is overcome fear. All those things developed, and he can master that part before he comes to the next stage. Quiet baby. You know, some parents tell me, my baby is so quiet. I don't want quiet babies. They need to be able really to communicate and use voices, because all the parts that a baby does motorically need to be operate with some voice, with some murmurs that he's talking, not to be too quiet. A tendency to lose balance, often he fall. If he fall, it doesn't matter. A mother and a teacher need to give the child the opportunity or the baby to fall, because if he falls, he needs to come up and stand on his feet once again. And it's a balance. The maturity of the balance is working when the baby or the child is moving from floor to stand up. A baby who has difficulty adapting to new situation. For instance, from day to night, from breastfeeding to bottle or to solid food. So the mother or the teacher need to know some of the kids need more time to adapt to a new situation, and you need to give them that particular time that this child needs. This early sign really, if not treated, can be source of difficulties in preschool age. It is important in preschool age not to ignore problems that appears again and again, because this is the critical time to make changes. Now about parents. I work with many parents, and I have to teach the parents how to be able to see their own child. At the beginning, when I started to work with babies, I thought I need to learn and to study more about babies. Later on, I realized how important is to know more the psychological part of the parents, of the mother, and to teach to interact mother, father, take care of the babies. It is important to talk, and it is important to really play, and it's important to bring the face close to the baby so the baby will really see the tongue and the lips of the mother. What does parents face today? There are so much really theoretical books and articles about how to handle or how to work, so that they are losing really the parental instinct, and they don't know what is right, what is right and what is wrong. And I need to change perspective. Instead of really concentrate on something that doesn't work, to be able to see things that are working. Only those things that are working will influence to develop really something new. The baby gets used really to getting help instead of looking for his own ways to move. An overprotecting attitude influences the baby's autonomy. The autonomy doesn't start later on. The autonomy starts when the baby is learning to help themselves, and then when the reward system that is in the brain is giving him a positive feedback. And the result is of parents not to know enough about what the necessity of the babies that are using a lot of accessories, all kinds of accessories. They have really baby, you know, they have wheels, that walkers and wheels that are helping the baby to walk quicker. But if they are using the walker, they are not using really their own legs, and they are dependent on the wheels. So in order to strengthen and to teach a better balance, you need to use your own leg, and to maybe on a chair, or maybe sometimes the hands. And I have to tell you a story that one of my people told me. She came and said, my girl is 1.5 years and she still doesn't stand and walk. And I said, how was the development of her before? What did she do? She said, I can tell you that most of the first year, she really stayed with my mother. It means her grandson, a granddaughter. And I said, what did she do? When I came to visit them, I saw that most of the time she is on the sofa and didn't have enough time to be on the floor. And the mother said, I'm afraid that she really have enough time to be on the floor. Now that I see how my second son is on the floor so often, maybe she missed that part, and then she has a problem to walk and to sit and to really protect her own balance. The importance of empowering the persons is this triangle that I want to show you, that baby, practitioner, and parents. And these three factors are really influence the context of this triangle. And they need to learn to work together. If I am a practitioner, I have to teach the baby. The parents need to be at that room and to see the way I talk to the baby, the way I touch, the way I move, so that she will know. Some of the parents are taking that time to look at the telephone, or they are going out, or some places they tell the parents, go out, I will work with the baby. It's important for me that the parents will watch my attitude towards the baby. And it is a different attitude maybe that she is used to do. Better understanding what development is give the parents more safe, really way to handle the baby. Now the social brain. The social brain is lately really, many articles are written about what is social brain. It's the neural synchrony between mother and infant, and how important at those first 2 years is to do it so that the social brain will develop. accept the baby in its own right. Sometimes parents are disappointed that the baby does not perform a stage successfully. Even if they do not say so, that the facial expression show that, and the baby feel it, that the mother is not accepting him. And this infant sense that this is may really influence his self, and he feels himself as a failure in himself. I will show you a film on Henry. Parents need to be less overprotecting and give the baby to do things by his own pace.
Henry's mother, Nora, tells Chava that he's very, very active. He's always doing something, rolling, crawling, even starting to stand up. Chava watches Nora helping Henry to stand. She is holding him by the hands, encouraging him to walk. Chava sees that it is more than Henry is ready to handle. His balance still has to develop. He needs to start holding a solid object before he can stand holding a hand. He needs to be motivated by his own interest and by the feeling that his body is ready to support him. Don't use your hands to help him. Let him climb on your knees. Let him pull himself up. That way, he can better feel his feet on the ground and will have a clearer sense of his own balance. For Nora, this is a new way of relating to him. Instead of helping, she is sitting quietly with her arms down. Henry clearly enjoys the new situation. He can begin to balance on his own, and he discovers that he doesn't need his mother's help. He is learning by trial and error, coming up and falling down again and again. Chava tells Nora that Henry needs to learn this way to be steady on his own feet. It's not something she can help him with or do for him. At this point in his development, it's more important that he learns to fall and that he is not afraid of falling.
Could you see how difficult it was to this mother to keep her hands and not to help? It's really a big job for the parents not to help, so that I say the mother, stay like a statue. He will climb on you and he will learn to climb and enjoy your face when you said how wonderful you are doing it, and not to do it with your hands. Another subject is the work with special needs. More and more are children that need to have a special needs, and the Sheldhav method is preparing also the students or the teacher to work with a special needs. Actually, it is the same principles as working with regular or with a typical babies. The untypical is sometimes you need to know more about the problematic and adapt to the special needs. But we are teaching also the mother and the groups how to work with special needs. Would you like me to talk about my experience with Feldenkrais?
Let's start back a little bit with the whole issue of these early warning signs. I just think that is so key for people to be able to, I don't know if warning signs was the word you used, but early signs. So key for people to be able to identify some things that maybe wouldn't be picked up by a pediatrician, but the parents can kind of see, oh, something is not quite maybe right here. It's just not going along at the same level that it could be going along. But I think your list of signs is really important for us all to be able to tune into that. And I also really liked your statement that you don't want quiet babies.
Angels.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, of course, there's also children who cry all the time, and that could also be another early sign as well. But it's a more common one. You don't hear people talking about quiet babies so much being a sign of something that's particularly not going well. And I also thought that the one about just the difficulty in transitioning from one phase to another was one that people might not recognize, because, you know, you kind of think, oh, well, it just takes some children longer than others. And of course that's true, but also that it could be an indication that you could get some things done for the baby early on that's going to really make a big difference later in life. So what you've really focused on, especially in the last 20 years, it seems like, is how can you engage parents and practitioners in working in that first year of life in particular. And I mean, who doesn't need a better setup in life, a better way to start off?
Yes, and you know, it's also the whole tapping, the things that I showed you before is for baby who are crying. If I teach to tap, parents are afraid to touch because they think that the baby will break or something, that they will really hold too tight. No, the baby needs this supported from the parents, and the tapping and the squeezing, and the babies are developing to be more quiet and more relaxed.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I hope people tried the tapping, because it's, even when you do it for yourself, it's pleasant.
And I will tell you, I'm doing it now in Feldenkrais too, not only with babies. I decided, I hope the Feldenkrais will understand and accept my way of tapping, even grown-up people in an FI lessons.
Mm-hmm. Good, thank you. So FI standing for functional integration.
Functional integration, yes.
So you had this start out with Moshe Feldenkrais, and why don't you just talk a little bit more about how he, as a man and as a method, he influenced you? What changes did happen for you in your life as a result of the interaction and time spent with him?
Just to know, to be around him, and to see the way he could understand and talk about so many things with so many points of view from so many angles, and of course that physics and understanding of the human body and the psychology and all those things brought him really to be able to see beyond something or beyond the person. And that part beyond the person, I had to sit and stay near him for a long time to find out what is it that he asks questions that relate more to the person, not only to the difficulties that the person came and asked for. And it took me many years to understand what is it. And I also sat near him in the Alexandria Eye, where he taught the group of people, and looked where he is looking, because he did not demonstrate. He sat and talked verbal explanation or verbal direction. And I had to look where his eyes are pointing. And according to where he looked, he changed the sentence, or he corrected, not with the name of the person, he corrected more generally. And he saw whether the person understood it or not. And this is a different kind of correction that I learned in many other parts of the movement, that the teacher is correcting the person by his name and not by his developing awareness to what he does. So I think I developed a third eye.
You think you did what?
Developed a third eye.
A third
One,
eye.
two eyes we have, I developed a third one that can see beyond something that I see and think, what is it? So observation was something that I learned from him to observe. And he, you know, what can I tell you? I can tell you one of the things that when Ben-Gurion came to work with him, and he had back pain, and Feldenkrais worked with him. And Feldenkrais, in one of the lesson, told him, could you teach me to stand on my head? And Feldenkrais said, how come? He said, look, we have now the Prime Minister of Burma who are visiting Israel, and he is standing on his head every day. And I thought it will be good for me. So Feldenkrais took the time and gradually brought him to stand on his head. So the story is later on, what was the rationale of Moshe really answer his question or his wish to stand on his head. Because when you stand on your head, you have to learn upside down. It means the head is down, and you need to overcome fear, and the brain needs to learn really to be on a completely new situation to study, and the vertebrae are more are coming more pushed together. And the idea, if they are pushing and pressed together, the feeling that later on when you stand up, you are much taller than before. So Ben-Gurion was a very small person. He wasn't height. Cognitively, he was wonderful, but his self-image about his physical sense was not good enough. And Feldenkrais thought, I'm going to develop a new option of him to feel his physical body in a completely new way, and that will influence also his self-image, not that he is small, that he much taller in his self-image. So that was very interesting, that behind the idea to work with something were many, many aspects that we didn't think about it. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, it's a great example of being very client-centered. So it was Ben-Gurion's desire to learn that. And as I recall, the process of getting him ready for that was many, many months. And in one reading, I hope I'm not making this up, I believe I read that Dr. Feldenkrais talks about being concerned about watching how he responds to it, both in a circulatory way as well. So he was really very much attending. And I just need to say this because many yoga practices are now moving away from headstands entirely. So there was an understanding in the Feldenkrais method that you do need to know the person and know what you're doing when you're working with something like a headstand. So it had to be like a thrill for Ben-Gurion.
Yes, it was. You know, in a way, it helps Israel to be more popular and to be famous more with the headstanding. But later on, all the people thought the whole Feldenkrais is standing on the head, and then we need to change the angle of understanding what is Feldenkrais. It's not only stand on his head. It was it's something that he did to Ben-Gurion.
Right, and you just gave if you were going to say maybe just only one word to describe Feldenkrais, you gave it a moment ago, which is self-image. It's
Yes.
the enhancement of the self-image. So it's, yeah, very, very lovely.
One of the things is that it's more in Feldenkrais that people are always dressed. He never take off the clothes when he is working one-to-one. Of course, in a group, all of them have their clothes. But in the lesson, and the idea behind it, that if you take off the shirt or if you take off the jacket, it's like you are taking something off from your own personal thing. So if he will work on changing something in your body part, and later on you need to wear once again the coat will give you a sign from something that you were before, not with the new experience of something that you did with the clothes. So if there is a very interesting idea why not to take off the clothes and the jacket or the sweater, to work on that so you stay with this and you are aware and you are not changing anything when you are standing up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thanks, Sue. I really appreciate that. You mentioned your research. I love I've been using the video, even though it's now quite old, the video of you working in Germany in the school where you're working with children with some developmental delays.
Yes.
I think it's still an extremely potent film all this time later. And you mentioned that people could get access to that research.
Yes, I think even in the Feldenkrais, not newsletter, it was once a Feldenkrais journal. And they took, and you can ask in the Feldenkrais journal on the subject with children. So they wrote all the article about my research in school.
Okay.
I wrote a book about that, but this is in German language.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate that. And you also have a book called A Guide to Awareness Through Movement, which is 18 lessons based on the Feldenkrais method. It's by yourself and Dalia Golom.
Yes, Dalia Golom.
It's a very lovely book. If people are looking for a book with 18 key lessons that are extremely well laid out, I highly, highly recommend it. And can they buy that through?
Through, I mean, I did it by myself and promoted by myself, but it's also the Feldenkrais Institute. Okay. I think of the Feldenkrais.
We'll see if we can find a link to that real quick and put it out in the chat for people.
Okay.
And then also your DVD that I was referring to that I've seen, that's the 1 hour documentary and that I've used for years, actually brought teachers in multiple times to see that. And it is always a good discussion jumping off point for people. And actually also I used it when myself and an interdisciplinary team taught a course for teachers at Xavier University. And we started with that DVD as a joint understanding and built off of it. So it's really quite nice. Your work has just been phenomenal, Chava. We so appreciate what you've done and bringing, I think, empowerment to parents. One of the things I love about the Sheldhav method is you're really, really working with the parents as much as you're working with the children. And there's such a community interactive component to that as well, where you've taught them how to have groups. You have groups of parents coming together and working with their babies. We saw that earlier.
Yes.
I think it's a very unique thing when you're working with children with a variety of issues. Now, you also work with children with some more significant developmental issues.
Yeah. I wrote also a book about the work with special needs. When I did my PhD, I wrote Feldenkrais with CP children. So, and I think Elizabeth Berger is offering that book in English, yes.
Okay, great. So that's from the Feldenkrais
resource.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Very soon, the book about the child space is now translated to English, and it will be published by the North Atlantic book.
Oh, wow. Great. Well,
Yes.
we're looking
In
forward.
a few months, it's already translated. It also it's editing. Very soon, it will be published. Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So I know that you have several trainings coming up, and I'm going to let you talk about those yourself. You've got 4 or 5 coming up.
Yes, I mean the child space. We have a training program in Japan, and very soon we'll start the second one in Japan in Matsue. We have in Amsterdam a child space that finished now the second or the third training program in Buenos Aires. Very soon there will be the end of the first one, and 2 or 3 months later start the new one. In Vienna, we are starting in May a new training program for child space. And of course, we have in Israel 15 already training program. It's very popular. And in the United States, it will be in Charlotte, in North
Carolina?
In North Carolina. And of course, in Germany, there were at least 12 or 13 child space lessons. So it started to be more and more popular, and I'm very happy about it because I think it's important that parents, that baby will receive more support when they are in the first 2 years of life.
Absolutely. And they can find out more about these programs on your website.
Yes.
It's childspace.com, I believe.
Childspacemethod.com.
Childspacemethod.com. Absolutely.
Yes.
Beautiful. I knew I was missing something there. Okay, so how would you like to develop your own map? The theme of this particular summit is the map is the territory, and you talked about mapping a little bit earlier. You actually used the word when you were talking about helping a person or a baby to map out their self-image. But at this stage of your life, how would you like to see your own personal map develop, or the map of the Feldenkrais world maybe change, develop?
Maybe one of the things that I dream about is that every Feldenkrais training program will have a separate year on development. Because unfortunately, many of the Feldenkrais people are working with babies, and it's right that the whole method is based on children and or babies, but I know how much I need to know more about development, and why not to bring few more months to develop a better understanding how to work with babies. And my own is that more and more parents will come, and every child in the world will receive a mapping opportunity to develop his own self-image.
Wonderful. I love that. I love that idea. I like it a lot. So I want to really thank you so much, Chava, for being with us. I'm going to just start to wrap us up here with some details that everybody needs to know, and then we'll come back and have a more official goodbye together. So we'll have a replay. It should be up within a couple of hours, and then it will remain available for free. Let me say that again, because we had a lot of interference in sound there. So this replay will be up in a couple of hours, and then it will remain free for up to 48 hours. When you come to a live conference or you come to this online summit, it's no different. You have to make choices. There's no way you're going to be able to attend, I don't think, and be healthy all 6 sessions a day for 10 days. I mean, some of them are just going to be outside your time zone, but also you probably want to eat and sleep like we want to eat and sleep. So it is true that you're going to find it challenging to watch all of these within the 10 days. And that's why we have a all-access pass upgrade where you can keep all of the materials from the summit and use them, watch them at your leisure, download them if you like, as well as you will get access to over $500 worth of bonus materials. And Chava has 2 items that she's offered for us in the bonus material, and we'll just wrap up talking about those in a second. The other thing I'd like to say is that right after this talk tonight, there will be a very relaxing awareness through movement lesson. This will happen every evening. They're less than 15 minutes long usually, and it's by Dorothy Hennig, and she will be guiding you in the evening. Then tomorrow morning, and these times that I'm listing are all Eastern Daylight Time, or New York time, if that helps you. The 6:30 a.m. Arafili, I'm not going to say it right, so I'm just not going to say it. I've been practicing it, but I can tell right now I can't get it off my tongue. Nikolakopoulos. I think that's close. Nikolakopoulos will be teaching the morning awareness through movement, and that will be by video, and she'll actually have some demonstration of what's going on, and those are a little bit more active, a little more upright. And then we will continue at 8 a.m. every day, exploring the second talk of the track. In this particular case, the second talk of the nervous system health track. So thank you so much, Chava. I know you've offered 2 videos in the bonus section. One of them is about Jasmine, primarily for practitioners or people who work with special needs children, I would say. You must say something about Jasmine?
Yes, Jasmine was born, she was a normal child, but she had an operation in her hand, and they damaged something in her brain, and she became how you say it, paralyzed on half of hands on the right side. And I worked with her many years, and from the age of, I think, 2 or 3 till the age of 6, and she can use her hands and she can walk. You can see in the films that she can hug, and it was very, very paralyzed, very spastic, and that was a wonderful work to work with her. So everyone can learn to work with special needs children, and there are many, many who are really having half of the body paralyzed, or only one hand spastic, or one leg, but also with grown-up. You can just transfer it to grown-up as well.
Good. And then you also have a video working with a couple of children with more what we would call ADHD issues.
Yes, yeah. And
that's
so
everybody.
Yes, it is 2 children that they didn't feel themselves well. The sensory part was not developed, and they could not jump. So actually is how can you play? And using the Feldenkrais, that was some of the materials that I did already when I was only Feldenkrais teacher, how to play. Because I started to work when I worked as a Feldenkrais teacher with children 6, 7 years old, and they could not jump and they couldn't really run. So that's the things that I did give them an ATM, but later on I felt I need to develop games. And in these 2 films you can see how do I use games in order to be more curious to do things.
Wonderful.
I think everyone will enjoy that.
Good. Thank you so much. And if you do want to do the all access upgrade, you can get $25 off by doing it while the summit is still operational. Okay. If you have questions or problems, you can go to feldenkraissummit.com. You can also find out about all of our speakers, including Dr. Sheldhav, there by clicking on her name, and it will tell you all about her and also give you ways to connect to her and her website and her products. And then if you, while you're over there, if you've got a question for us, you'll see a little chat pop up. You can write us and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. We do keep East Coast hours, but we're try to get back to you as quickly as we can. Or you can email us at support@futurelifenow.com. Chava, thank you. I really appreciate you kicking us off.
And thank you. And I want to thank Liat Amir, which assists me so wonderful. I think without her, I won't be able to do all this technology. And she was really very helpful. And thank you, Liat. And thank you. You were wonderful. Yeah.
Well, good. Thanks so much. So we'll look forward to connecting more. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.